On February 1, 1887, Hollywood, California as we know it was born. On that date, Harvey Henderson Wilcox, real estate mogul, registered his new tract map for an area called Hollywood with the Los Angeles County Registrar's Office. And on February 2nd, he advertised the tract in local newspapers. This was the start of luring adventurous settlers west, as well as establishing Hollywood as the filmmaking capital of the world, giving Harvey and Dada Wilcox, his wife, the legitimate names as father and mother of Hollywood. Born 1832 in upstate New York, Harvey Wilcox let nothing stand in his way, including infantile paralysis, which afflicted him in his teens. He moved with his family to Michigan and later Ohio, working a series of jobs, before he married his wife Ellen and moved to Topeka, Kansas, where he was both politician and land mogul, and helping establish prohibition in the territory. After Ellen died in early 1882, he met and fell in love with a 34-year younger Ida Hartel, who shared his religious, political, and social beliefs. They married later that year, and in May 1884, they traveled by train westward to Los Angeles to establish new beginnings and founded a real estate office for Harvey in downtown. Their son Harry was born in February 1885, but sadly he died in September 1886. To assuage their grief, the couple would take long buggy rides on weekends to rural areas outside Los Angeles, and during that time they fell in love with the bucolic Cahuenga Valley. Harvey loved the Cahuenga Pass, its rolling hills, and its frostless belt, which led to bountiful crops, including tropical fruits. And Dada fell in love with a grove of fig trees, which is north of what we know as Hollywood Boulevard between Cahuenga and Ivar. They purchased the fig orchard in 120 acres, bounded by Franklin Avenue, Sunset Boulevard, Gower Street, and Whitley Avenue, to form their ranch called Hollywood. And they joined other ranchers, such as the first Spanish resident, Don Tomas Urquidez, German immigrant farmer Henry Clausen, and Ivar Weed. On February 2nd, 1888, Harvey approached the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors and petitioned them to accept the streets as he had laid them out and to allow him to build a dummy railroad from downtown into Hollywood to bring potential buyers. The Board of Supervisors unanimously approved these petitions, but not until September was land offered for sale. Harvey died March 19, 1891, having put Hollywood on its way to becoming a great city, but it was his young and visionary wife, Dada, who accomplished that task as a budding real estate mogul and a person of vision. She and her new husband, Philo Beveridge, did establish prohibition laws in the community, but she donated land to establish churches such as St. Stephen's Episcopal Church, the First Christian Church, and the Methodist Episcopal Church South, as well as city buildings like City Hall, the Post Office, and the First Library, all to help put Hollywood on its way to becoming a legitimate and great city. She also fell in love with the arts, particularly after she met French-born painter Paul Delancre, and impressed with his art, she volunteered to give him 3 tracts of land just north of Hollywood Boulevard facing east on Cahuenga, but instead Delancre for $3,000 purchased the corner lot from her in the early 1900s. His charming personality, stunning gardens, and lovely floral paintings would attract the first tourists to the area, aided by Charles M. Pierce's balloon route, which offered a scenic train ride for Los Angeles guests from downtown Los Angeles to Santa Monica, stopping first at Delancre's striking gardens, where they could take a tour or buy paintings. Thus, it became the first Hollywood tourist attraction, and it also soon became a filming location, serving as a location for the filming of the second film shot in Hollywood, D.W. Griffith's Love Among the Roses, in 1910. Thus, Hollywood was on its way to become not only a great commercial city, but also a great filming location. Dusty Prospect Avenue would soon evolve into Hollywood Boulevard, the West Coast glamorous version of New York's Fifth Avenue, lined with upscale boutiques, luxurious department stores, and fancy restaurants, all during the heart of the 1920s when the studio system was formally established in Hollywood. Well, in 1980, 5 smart and thoughtful women took up Daida's mantle when they decided to form Hollywood Heritage, realizing that Hollywood needed a historic museum to preserve its memory. They all met during the first historic survey for Hollywood. The 5 women, Mildred Herradine, Susan Peterson, Marion Gibbons, Christy Johnson, and Frances Offenhauser, established Hollywood Heritage to preserve the historic built environment and to educate its citizens on its leading pioneers and historic buildings in the community. Aided by former Los Angeles County Board Supervisor John Anson Ford, they established Hollywood Heritage as a museum in the former Lasky DeMille barn, which was the birthplace of Paramount. These 5 visionary and innovative women followed Daida in establishing an important organization with Hollywood Heritage, which continues its preservation efforts. Some of the first buildings preserved by Hollywood Heritage included the Janes House, the last remaining Prospect Avenue mansion in which the Janes sisters ran a school, the iconic Cinerama Dome, and Hollywood Boulevard, which was named to the National Historic Register in 1985. Hollywood Heritage continues its preservation efforts, working out of the Preservation Resource Center on Hollywood Boulevard, situated on the former Hollywood tract and the Delambre Gardens, and just half a block from Wilcox, named after its founding mother and father. Hollywood Heritage works to preserve the historic built environment and tell these stories. And these buildings reveal the stories of its leading citizens and the evolution of the community, showing Hollywood as it is today and how it will become in the future. So to know more about Hollywood, we have Marion Gibbons, one of the founders of Hollywood Heritage, talking about Hooray for Hollywood and the founding of the organization, why they decided to form it, how they formed it, and how the lovely Lasky DeMille barn Hollywood Heritage Museum ended up where it currently is today. And then I've written Hollywoodland, the Arcata publishing book on the history of Hollywoodland and its famous advertising billboard, the Hollywood sign. Most of the information and photos came from Hollywood Heritage's own archives, and all profits benefit the museum.